Hi y'all, welcome to the Craft Table Podcast. My name is Tori. You can see anything I'm working on or any updates that I have on the Making app or on Instagram at the Craft Table Podcast. And if you want to send me an email, you can, and that's going to be at thecrafttablepodcast@gmail.com. That's for if you have any questions or you want to reach out about something I talk about in the podcast. It's a great way to get in touch with me there. I do also answer DMs, so if you need me to answer anything or you want to know where something came from and I just neglected to mention it, you can reach me there too. So this week is a bit of a longer episode probably. I can't make any promises because sometimes I ramble and sometimes I don't, but this is the Tuesday after Maryland Sheep and Wool. So I do have quite a bit of purchases to share, how it went, things like that. I also have just regular stuff to talk about, some things that I have been working on. So I'll go ahead and start there and then leave the Maryland Sheep and Wool stuff towards the end, just so that if you're not interested, you can go on by. But so this week I do have some hand spinning / hand spun stuff to talk about. I finally plied up my 2 singles for the Fin Fleece into 2 separate, over both about 100 grams of fingering to DK weight. The first skein is definitely more fingering to lace, and then the second half of that skein is more of a fingering to DK. So it's very lumpy and bumpy with the way that I spun, which is fine for me, and it's actually working out really well in the project I have it going for. So I don't actually have the original skeins to share with you, but I did go ahead and spun up a small sample of DK weight, just pure DK weight, and this is what it looks like. Very, very lofty. Here, let me get a strand. So it's very fuzzy and it's very, I wouldn't say messy, but it's definitely very drapey and lofty. It doesn't have a lot of elasticity to it, which I'm fine with. I am using it for a cardigan project, so I don't really mind if it's not lofty as long as it has some drape. I'm happy with it. So this is what it would look like in the skein. I have cakes of it to share with you. Oh, well, I could show you my swatch. So I'm still spinning as I go with the project that I have in mind, but just to actually talk about the project, I was picked for a test knit by Taylor Owens. She's here on YouTube and has her own podcast, the Thread to Mend podcast, which I highly recommend if you're interested in natural colored hand spun yarns and farm yarns, and just a very kind and interesting person to listen to. She's based in Maryland, and I actively listen to her podcast. I really enjoy it, so I would recommend it. But she's also a designer, so she had a testing call, and I went ahead and was a crazy person and submitted my name and said that I want to use it in farm yarn or my own hand spun, and she picked me, which is a shock because I've not done a test knit, and I know sometimes that can be very picky choosy how it's done, and you have to have all of these requirements of posting everywhere and having an active Ravelry page and having done more than one project. There's a lot that goes into it, so I wasn't expecting to be picked. So it was a nice surprise to get the email and then the pattern in the email. So this was my swatch. It's a little bit, you can see it's pretty stretchy here. So I guess it does have some stretch, but it's very marled. I didn't really pay attention to color when I was spinning and carding, and I still am not going to. I like the messy look of it, and it's got a really good, it's very, very drapey. I'm very happy because I had done a couple other swatches with some farm yarn that I've been sitting on, and it was extremely stiff and very bulky, and I knew that I wouldn't wear that cardigan if I went forward with that. So this makes me happy. This I'm happy with, and I hit gauge on the needle. Even with the lumpy and bumpiness of my yarn, I think it kind of makes up for it in the knitting. Oh, there's some little bean going upstairs. So it makes up for it in the garment, and I'm happy. The actual garment I will show you now. I am in the middle of the raglan increase. It's a top-down cardigan, and I'm really excited, but it's hard to see kind of bunched up on the needle the way that it is, but here it is. It sits like this on me, so I'm kind of getting there. Not really, but kind of. I'm halfway through the first bout of increases. I'm knitting one of the larger sizes, so it's got a lot of growth still to go. I think when I end up, once I'm done increasing and doing all of the things for the yoke portion, it's like 300 and something stitches for DK to worsted weight yarn. That's a lot. It's a lot, but it's okay. I'm fine with that. So it's just a little bit of some work to get there. There is, I don't know if it's not very visible very well, but there is some cabling happening. Yeah, you can't see it on camera very well at all, but there's supposed to be some cabling going down the where the yoke is, or not the yoke, the raglan increases are, and it's really pretty. It just doesn't, if I wasn't using hand spun, I would not be using, if I didn't want to use my hand spun, I would not use this yarn for that pattern, because the cables are very simple, but they're like one of the main design elements, so that was on me. But I am happy, and I can see the little twist of the cables in person, so I just I don't know if it's because of the lighting or what, but they are hard to see with all of the marling. And it's a 2-ply yarn that I'm using, so it's not, usually when you're cabling you want to use a 3-ply or 4-ply, because that gives it a more definition, and I just didn't do that, but I'm okay with that. Hopefully Taylor is okay with that when I finish, but I have a couple weeks to do this, so I'm just spinning and knitting as I go. I am very, very happy with it. I've got 2 skeins going, or 2 cakes going. I'm almost done with one, as you can see, and here's the other one. I'm holding the fingering to lace weight double to get the same gauge as this guy here, and it's working out okay, so I'm not fussy, and it's helping with like this darker color. It's balancing it out with this lighter shade. So that's just kind of where I'm at with my hand spun / knitting. Let me find a good place for this. Okay. I don't have anything for crochet. I do have something for regular knitting. I'm just going to talk briefly about one of my purchases from Maryland Sheep and Wool, because I adore this person and her yarn. One of my most worn cardigan is made from her Targhee hand-dyed yarn. It is a Targhee superwash, and I picked up another skein from her so that I could make socks. And this is the colorway called Pollen. It's very bright and very happy sunshine, and I literally just barely started because I casted it on the moment I got home, but then I went back to the test knit. But it's just some ribbing on size zeros, I believe. Yeah, size zeros. I'm very excited. I'm doing the Kia socks that they've been out for a while, but they've been in my queue and library for some time, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do a shorty version of the Kia sock, because I don't like long cuffed socks. So that's what I've been knitting on. I've been bouncing between the two. I don't have any crochet, like I said, but I do have some quilting. I finished my mug rug, which I don't have with me. I should have brought that with me, but I have photos on my Instagram in the making app if you want to see it. So I finished that, and I had some quilting fabric that I wanted to do a table runner or something with just to learn my machine, and I got the wild hair to just go ahead and make little hexes with them, English paper piecing. So I've started that. It's gonna be this width, and then I have a couple rows that I'm gonna do to give it some height, and then make a bag out of it. So that's the goal. I don't know how fast that'll be, but I haven't worked on it at all in the last week and a half. The last half of the week. That doesn't sound right, but yeah. The last couple of days I haven't done anything because I've been wanting to work on my test knit. So I do have some quilting. Other than that, I haven't really been working on any other knitting projects. I've kept to the test knit because I want to get it done, and I want to make it as fast as possible because the actual cardigan is going to be something that I'll wear a lot of and get a lot of use out of it. I already can tell, especially with the yarn. So I want to be able to get that off the needles and the test knit completed for Taylor as soon as possible, since I've never done one of these and I kind of want to be prompt about it and do right by the person who picked me to do the test knit. So that's kind of where I'm at with my projects. I did have a purchase come in that I bought 3 weeks ago. I joined the Nest, let me see, is it the Nest? Yeah, the Nest Fiber Club. I joined, sorry if there's crinkling, I haven't taken it out of the bag, but I joined her mixed fiber group and immediately bought some fiber to do a combo spin. That will be after I finish this test knit spin, frankly. But the first color is Verna, and it's very springy and very happy. It's got greens, purples, pinks. It's very much like a spring flower, so I'm happy with that. So that'll be one strand, and then the second strand will be this very, very pale pink. And it doesn't have a name, it's just a semi-solid from the actual colorway itself, so it will match and blend very nicely. And I'll do a combo spin of that. So both of those bags are 4 ounces, and I'll end up with 8 ounces, and that should be enough to do like a little cowl or something. That's the goal there. And it's a, I didn't tell you, but it's a BFL silk blend, so it's going to be very shiny and very drapey, and I'm looking forward to that, which is why I would like to have it as a not a shawl, because I don't like 1 to 2 skein shawls. I like bigger shawls, but a good cowl would not go poorly. There's a new pattern from Andrea Mowry that I think would look really good, called Inclination or something like that. I could be wrong, but it's her newest cowl pattern, very similar to the Shifty cowl, but it's in a fisherman's rib or something like that. Either way, that's the goal with that. But I haven't received anything else. I haven't purchased anything else. I do have some yarn that I purchased back in March finally coming, based off of mushrooms. I purchased a pre-order that went with the mushroom stitch markers that I showed you a couple weeks ago. Was it a couple weeks ago? I can't tell. Time is a funny thing right now. So, yeah, that'll be coming and I'll share that. But I haven't had anything else show up on my doorstep. I haven't made any other purchases outside of Maryland Sheep and Wool. I should probably start talking about that now. I drove myself. I went by myself this year. I was gonna go with a friend, but it didn't work out, which is totally fine. I did not enjoy the drive. It's a very pretty drive, but it was storming, and I left the house pretty early in the morning to avoid traffic, which was good because the weather was really bad and I didn't want to be on the roads with other vehicles. So I went and left at great times to make it work for me and my anxious driving. Unfortunately, I didn't stay as long as I wanted to. I wanted to stay for the podcaster meetup, but I wasn't feeling well, and I had almost a 2.5 hour drive headed home, And by the time that I'd purchased my fleece, bought the scanning yarn I showed you, and bought some odds and ends, I was ready to go home. It was really, really nice to go to a fiber festival that wasn't Rhinebeck and was very focused on, it reminds me a lot of the, what is it? FA? No, that doesn't sound right. It reminded me a lot of the agriculture shows that would happen back home. So I was excited to be there. This was my second time going. My first time was in 2019 and I loved it. I will be going back again. Hopefully the weather will be better next year and I'll be feeling better and then I can stay longer. And maybe we'll have a buddy to drive with, because that is not a fun 5-hour drive in a single day. I'm learning. But it went really well and everyone was really great, and even though it was raining and really bad weather, everyone was super kind and very gracious and very happy to be there, so it was a good time to go. I got there at like 9:30 and already most of the fine fleeces were gone. I'll talk more about my fleece next week. I haven't done anything with it. I just have it in the house right now waiting to be sampled, but with the test knit and the test spin, I guess, it's been a bit on the back burner, but I did get a Cornwall Cross fleece, natural colored, uncoated, and 7.5 pounds of that. So it's quite a hefty boy. I'm so sorry if you can hear the tippy taps of my dog. She found her toy and she's decided it's time to play. I won't discourage it though. She's been a little bummed. I'll let her do her thing. But so I apologize if you hear any of that in the background. But yes, I did get a big fleece. I was very happy. That was the first thing I did. It was less than $100. I was within budget. I was happy. I'm hoping that it is a better experience than the uncoated fin fleece, but we'll see. I don't know how this will go. This will be my third fleece, so I don't really have a lot of experience in preparation of fleeces to really tell you if, before even getting my hands on it, if it's going to be an easy spin or not. So I will share that process with you. I plan to. I look forward to going from start to finish, actually video podcasting it, because I did audio podcast after I had started processing the first fleece I bought, so I didn't really get to capture all that I was learning at real time, and that's a little bit of a bummer because I feel like I missed a lot of learning opportunities out of that. But that's okay. I'm not totally upset about it. I look forward to the next fleece. I also bought these really cute buttons for my test knit. They're little mushrooms. They're little mushrooms, guys. There were some red ones, but these yellow green ones, I don't know, but they just made me really happy. And they're from the Holland Hoof Farm store, and I'll make sure to link them below. They do have an online shop, and their button collection was insane. It was so pretty. I'll definitely be buying more buttons from them, and they're just so stinking cute. And they're like clay painted over, so I'm hoping that they'll be a little bit sturdier than like pearl buttons, but I'm looking forward to putting them. I think they'll look really great with my dark mild gray cardigan. I think the green yellow will pop and the white will pop pretty well, so I'm excited. I also bought a shawl pin from them, just a simple little wooden shawl pin, nothing fancy. I just wanted it because I wear a shawl around the house quite frequently and I needed something to hold it closed while I was moving about doing things. But other than that, I didn't do any other purchases besides the skein that I mentioned earlier from I didn't tell you who it was from. It's from Folktale Fibers. I'll also link her because she's great. Her dye stuff is amazing. Her hand spun stuff is amazing. She does some really pretty felted home decor things that I think you guys would like. So I definitely will link her because I think she's a great maker and she has some really solid Targhee yarn. And she only does superwash Targhee and it is amazing. It's amazing. I love it. I swear by it. Like, you could not. She's the reason why I bought Targhee fiber, because like I knew I loved Targhee because of her. So I highly recommend her stuff, and she is going to put things back onto her Etsy store once she I guess does whatever she needs to from the fiber from the Maryland Sheep and Wool show. So hopefully by the time that I post this, she'll have something up in the next day or so. I definitely recommend you make purchases from her. She's great and her costs are reasonable for what she does. But I didn't buy a whole lot. I didn't eat anything there. I actually went and drove to Jason's Deli for lunch, which was like 30 minutes out of my way south from home. But it is a place that was, there was quite a few of those in Central Texas, and it's just one of those places that I really like the food. So I did go ahead and drive and get myself lunch and came home. So I didn't stay long. I didn't meet anybody or see anybody aside from Folktale Fibers, who I wanted to talk to specifically. I did want to go to the the podcast or meetup, but I just, like I said, was not feeling well and could not even fathom staying past the time that I did. It just was like wet and miserable, and I was ready to go home. I was like, I'm done. I have my fleece and cute buttons, and if I stay any longer, I'm going to be spending way more money than I planned to. So I am very happy with what I did. I'm very happy with what I got. My purchases were great. They were things that I needed, minus the fleece, but that's debatable. You can debate on whether that's a needed item or not. But I got the things that I wanted. I'm happy with my purchases. I'm happy with the experience. Everyone who volunteered and put the show up was amazing. They did a really, really good job of making sure people were masked indoors. If they went inside, that there was space between things, that the space wasn't very large, unfortunately, in the fleece barn. We were all kind of crowded together, but everywhere else had open spaces that you could step out to, which was really nice. It was good to go and see the different really cool creative things. I didn't really take any pictures this year. I stopped by one barn of Shape before I went, just because I wanted to see some babies, because it is lambing season. So I did want to see the babies, and I saw a few, and they were really sweet, and they were selling them, and I just was like, I have to walk away. I have to walk away. So my township does not allow sheep, so they do allow goats, but they do not allow sheep, so I had to walk away. They were all very cute, and everything went really well. I definitely recommend that show if you're a spinner or just somebody who appreciates the fiber arts, because there are so many different people there who sell so many different things, and there's such a heavy focus on wool itself, not necessarily like yarn. Like Rhinebeck is the mecca for yarn. It's basically a yarn con. It's basically a Comic-Con for yarn. It's not, there are elements of farms and there are elements of spinning, but it's not the same as Maryland, and I don't really know how to explain that or what makes the difference. I don't know. I just couldn't tell you. I just know that there's a huge difference between the two, and I definitely prefer, this is going to be blasphemous, but I definitely prefer Maryland over Rhinebeck any day. I think Rhinebeck is a beautiful area, so is Maryland, and it's a fun drive. But if you want spinning stuff, you want access to spinning tools, you want access to needle rug punching, I don't know how to say that, but if you're into anything that is fiber crafts and not purely yarn, that is a great place to go and see the different things that you can do. So I highly recommend it. Next year, hopefully it's in person again. It was not in person due to the pandemic, so hopefully as time goes on, it gets better and not worse, and so we can go in person again. I do know that they have really great classes. I don't really typically do classes, so I don't think I've ever done a knitting or spinning class ever. That's not true. I did my intro to spinning, and that was my only class I've done fiber arts related that ever, and it was the best thing I could have ever done. So I am assuming, and they have like Clara Parks came to speak, so it's not just classes. There's also demonstrations and talks and stuff. So if I had gone, I would definitely go next time for like a talk or something, because I think those are really interesting because they come from people in the field, agriculturalists, those that hold doctorates, and then also the farmers, and then writers and things like that. So I do want to do that next year. I just didn't do it this year. I wasn't sure what the plan was for this year, if I'd even be going. So I am happy I went. I think there's a lot of really great things that you can do there. I highly recommend it. I know that it's been going for, I think this was the 49th year. Next year will be the 50th year, and it's amazing. They've done a really, really great job, both pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, and I think it's a great opportunity for anybody who's interested. Even if you aren't like a crafter yourself, it's a good show to go to. It's very much like those farm fairs that you would see in a rural area. Like, it's a great experience, and it's great food, and it's great people. Like, the people are wonderful, and you can't really go wrong with Maryland sheep and wool. So I definitely am happy it went, even though I only went for a couple of hours. So sorry for those that I was supposed to meet with, but hopefully next year it'll be a little different. I look forward, if you went, I'd love to hear what you bought, what you saw, if you got anything cool or interesting. If you got a fleece, I'd love to hear about the fleece you got if you did. I know I had a friend who went and got herself an electric spinning wheel from Daedalus? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but from an electric wheel company, and she's pretty stoked about it, and that's really cool. So like, if you got anything fun, I'd love to hear about it, or if you plan to go to a show locally in your area, because I know there's tons of fiber shows all over the US and in the UK and Europe in general. I think Spain has a show. Regardless, there's quite a few places in the world that have those things, and I'd love to hear if you have one coming up, or you plan to go to one, or you did go to one. That would be fun. Other than that, I will talk to you guys next week, and I will hopefully have more information on my Cormo Cross fleece for you. I hope that you do something kind and relaxing for yourself, and that you go slow this week and enjoy the spring temperatures if you're in this hemisphere. And if not, I hope you enjoy whichever kind of weather you are getting, indoors or outdoors. I hope to see you guys next week. Bye.